back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio.
And we have the connection here between three different parts of the country going on today. We're coming to you from Big Sky Country, Montana, and from the dank forests and jungles of Florida, and from the kind of humid and raining too much Carolinas. And we're all here today to have a little discussion about a haunted ranch. One of our guests, you'll recall, has been on quite a few times recently, and that would be Robin McCray from the International Hominology of Forest People. I'm wearing her t-shirt right now. And if you didn't see the Sasquatch Full Disclosure over on Rumble, go watch it. You're missing out big time. Can't even be shown on YouTube. And then the other guest is somebody that's been on the show before, and you that have been around a long time will remember way back at the beginning of the show when I had on the lady that had a horse ranch that was having Bigfoot problems. And then she was also on Bigfoot Outlaws with me, Bigfoot Outlaw Radio. And me and Bear both helped her to deal with the Sasquatch problem down there, which he's pretty much got under control. But now there's other weird paranormal stuff happening there. And so I'm once again bringing back to the show Researcher X and Robin McCray. Welcome back to the show, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All righty. Well, let's get right into it. Now, the reason that you two know each other is because Researcher X there, she keeps in close contact with me. And whenever something weird happens, she goes, Duke, something weird's happening. What should I do? And she usually sends me video. And sometimes I go, oh, that's probably Sasquatch related. Try this. And other times I go, that's above my pay grade. Here, I'm referring you to Robin. And so Robin has been dealing with you on this weird incident. And, you've got 3 barns down there, and like apparently all 3 of them are haunted or something. Because there's weird stuff happening
all 3 of them.
All 3 of them, right? I know you had a paranormal team down there that helped you close off apparently some kind of a transitory portal by the one and stop the activity there. And while they were there, they were playing with a ghost box, and they asked the ghost box if there was anybody around there other than you guys, and some entity narked them out and said Bigfoot. But and here's that video.
Hey there, buddy.
Okay, so yeah, that's kind of creepy. And there's other things going on down there. I know you got another friend that lives a few miles away from there, not particularly close, but not ridiculously far, that also has extreme activity over on their property. And you've been over there with them, and they've shown you orbs and stuff. And you showed me some of the pictures that you got, which were like amazing, that she's getting over there on that property.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole area of Florida, and I know yet a third property that's equal distance between these two, where the 2 people there have had a station, what they think is a stationary portal that they've been staking out and having all kinds of Sasquatch and other cryptid activity for almost 20 years now. So something about that particular area of Florida, very active with this sort of stuff. So with that, let's get on to what's been happening recently here now. You sent me a whole bunch of pictures here not too long ago. You want to tell me about those pictures and what happened?
Oh boy, which pictures? We've had so much happening.
The ones from inside the barn.
The ones from inside the barn. We think that we had a portal open up. They were just pictures, started with just a little circle. You could see the outline of the circle, and it would change. Every single picture, it would change. We would see a light, faint circle during the day, and then at night, you would really see the ridges around it, and then it kept getting brighter and brighter, and then it filled in all the way. And after it filled in all the way, we never saw it again. It just disappeared. It was completely gone. And then before that happened, we would walk in the barn and there'd be circles drawn on the walls of the barn walls themselves and some of the stalls. And they were made out of a dusty ash substance. We have no idea where they got that or who did that. We have cameras in the barn. We didn't see anything.
So what prompted you? Have you always had the cameras in the barn, or was this weird activity?
No, we have not. What prompted us? I have a renter down there, and he subleases the barn for me. And he texted me one morning, "We have a situation," and I'm like, "Okay, what's the situation?" He goes, "Well, one of my horses down here, one of the attendant's horses, has a braid in its forelock," and I'm thinking, "Why is that a situation?" And he said, nobody I know did it. And so he sent me a picture of the pony, and it was definitely a braid, and it was tied off at the end. There was no rubber band on it or anything like that. And he said someone must have been in the barn. And so that's when they ended up getting the cameras.
So was the barn accessible? Could anybody get in there?
Oh, but they'd have our gates locked. We have you have to have a gate code to get into the farm, but I guess that they could walk over the gate if they wanted to and walk up to the barn. I don't know
Why
who
would
would do that.
random braiding? I mean, nothing stolen, but a random braiding. I mean, that just
Right.
doesn't.
I mean, if they're gonna break into my farm, they're not gonna go into one stall and braid a pony's forelock.
You would think. And then the other thing is that if
Exactly.
it's somebody sneaking into the barn messing around with the ponies, why are they making these weird drawings on the stalls? And then why did they spend a whole pile of money trying to make some kind of a 3D light show for your cameras to pick up?
Right.
And the other thing too that I find very interesting is her description of the circle is like made with a white ash substance. And Duke, you remember the handprint on my husband's pillow, also done with a white ash, like almost like a chalky material.
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys never did know exactly what created that.
No, never.
You just saw the handprint where they matched the pillow and left the huge handprint.
Yeah, and they did it again on a pair of his shorts for work that he had laying out. And then they also had it on my floor. Never did I ever find out what it was. I've never been able to find anything. But then when you mentioned that,
Yep.
I thought, here we go again with this white chalky substance. Now, years ago, back when I lived in Michigan, they did tree drawings for me. And they had one tree drawing was a teddy bear. The other tree drawing was a picture of a Bigfoot. And then it had alien heads floating around it.
Oh, wow.
I just find that really interesting. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, yep. That is, like we said, we have no idea where they're getting it. I mean, it is darker, but it's it's not really dark like a dirt would be, but it's very, like I said, very ashy and very fine.
Well, the other thing I found very interesting about the pony getting braided, if somebody is going to actually break into a place to do a random braiding, okay, when we braid, we will take a rubber band or something or a ribbon or whatever to end it.
Mm-hmm.
When the Bigfoot do it, they knot it. They do this weird little upside down knot thing on the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually just got back from Hastings, Nebraska. We spoke at a conference there. And the woman that did the conference, they are now braiding flags. And they're finding these flags ripped and braided all over the place, all of them with that strange end of the braid. And so I asked them what it meant, and they said that the flag represented our people and them braiding represented theirs. So it was a coming of all people. Well, then she asked somebody else that said they told her the middle strand of the braid was supposed to represent to them creator.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Very, very interesting.
My battery's about to die. I got to plug my computer in. Robin, can you take it away from when you got contacted from Researcher X here and what all happened then?
Sure. She had gotten a hold of me. Duke had shared my name with her, and I was very grateful that he did because she's just the sweetest thing ever.
Oh, thank you.
And then shared some of her photos with me, which was fantastic. I was very impressed with the one photo. It looks like at the very top of the barn, what looks like energy trails coming down. It literally looks like this big energy tube coming from the upper part of the barn, coming down, swirling off, and then coming lower. Now, I noticed when it was up there, when I was looking at the photo at the top of it there, it doesn't look like a standard portal would look like. Literally looked like energy tubes that are coming off. Very possible if that is a portal, they're not whatever's using it. And I didn't pick up that particular one was being used by the Bigfoot. Okay, that to me, the energy from it felt more like elementals, dimensional, those kinds of things that were coming down through it. but it definitely wasn't a portal that I really thought stayed open all the time. I mean, they're opening and closing it as they want it.
Okay. Yep. And that would make sense with that one we
Yeah.
saw that was open and then just closed.
Yeah. Yeah, but definitely a lot going on there. I mean, you have so many energies from so many different things. I mean, you've got the Bigfoot coming in there. You did have spirits in there as well,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of rattling around going like, oh my gosh, look at what all's here. But you have elementals. I would be really interested in finding out if there's any ley lines that run under your barn. The other thing that I would be curious about is a map where your barn is located to see if I can find any vortexes there, because I guarantee you have one, and I keep thinking you have two there. So you have all these things that are kind of stockpiled on top of it. Now, if the vortex is swirling the right way, it's going to pull out everything negative and it's going to put it down. If it gets turned the wrong way, it brings everything bad and shoves it up. Now, when I kind of like remote viewed your place and I found what I considered to be two vortexes, I found that they were spinning the correct way. So that's a good. I mean, I have gone into places and actually respun them the correct way. So, that's a possibility as well. But I didn't find that yours were going the wrong way at all.
Oh, good. Good.
You might want to do a little check on the local geology too, because there does seem to be correlations between, well, for one thing, quartz deposits and piezoelectric effects that they generate.
Oh, yeah.
Underground water systems and karst systems, and you know how honeycombed that area is.
Right.
Sinkholes, underground, and it changes a lot. It could be stable for years and years and years, and then it just gets undermined. And, well, if you've got a huge cave system under you, where'd that come from?
Yeah, and the other thing I would really be interested in is ghost-wise, you want to check to see what kind of buildings were there prior. As far as the paranormal aspect of the rest of it, I would really like to know what kind of Native Americans were on that land. And I'm not saying anything bad was ever done there, but sometimes that will give a little bit of insight into what was done on that land. Whether or not it was certain Native Americans that did more of the woo, did they, just kind of what that particular culture was. And sometimes that can add a lot to finding out what is going on.
Right.
I mean, the Foots, I feel like the Foots, when I spoke to them, because like I had mine spoke to some of them when you and I had talked. And the ones that I spoke to, I didn't find a problem with. I think they were drawn. You have, and I really, you and I didn't get a chance to talk a lot about this. You have in that property what is considered an energy hole. Okay. And what happens with these, and I've worked on this in Pennsylvania as well. I had a friend of mine that had one, very dear friend of mine. Like, I wouldn't even be doing half the stuff I do if it wasn't for her guidance in the beginning. But she had an energy hole, and I noticed it with this. Everything is attracted to that hole. Okay, good is attracted to it, bad's attracted to it. In your case, you are good. You have a pure heart, you have a pure soul, which means you can guard it. You can keep an eye on it because you're pure. And that's, the Foots will radiate around it because they're going to protect that hole. Anything good will want to be around it. Anything bad will want to get up on it to see if they can pull the energy from it and use it for their own devices. So, I mean, you have one there. I need to really investigate a little bit more to find out and tell you that I can usually pinpoint down to the very location where it's at.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that would be good to know.
Not necessarily a bad thing, but I mean, they do have these pockets in various places. But I noticed because of that energy swirl, that was the first thing that tipped it off. And I almost feel like it's probably somewhere located in that barn.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the energy, even in the photos for that particular barn, the energy just from the photos was so intense. And it wasn't a bad energy. It wasn't anything dark or anything like that, but it was.
Right. Well, I know, like, my renter, he gets really spooked when he goes in there by himself. Before, I didn't say anything to him for the longest time because I didn't want to scare him off, because he's down there by himself quite a bit too. And one night, just in passing, I had said something about, the haunted farm, ha, 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 and he's like, well, now that you brought that up, And he said that they'd be down there. He'd be down there in the mornings. And the stall doors down in that barn are old. They're big and heavy. He would hear one open. And he'd be like, I keep them all closed. And he'd look, and one would be open probably about 6 inches. And he's like, what the heck? He'd leave at night, turn everything off, close all the doors. His hired man would come in the morning. The lights would be on, and some of the doors would be open. He's like, you have got to keep that door shut, Frank. He's like, I shut it. And I mean, then it kind of started to get a little physical with him. He was opening the door to the tack room, and he felt like someone came up behind him and pushed him, and he thought it was his hired man messing with him, and nobody was there. So, it's been a little bit like that with me and with him. And
Now, do
I'm
you
just
feel
like, what next, right? What next?
Well, were you guys pushed at all, or was it just feel like
He
you
was
had
kind
something
of pushed forward a little bit. Like I've just been like touched. So I'm blown on, and I've heard my name.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that is, I mean, not only, a spirit could come up and do that as well, but the Bigfoot do the counting coup thing.
Oh.
And so, for anybody that doesn't know, and I know most of the people that are researchers know this, but the counting coup is where they come up and they'll be completely clothed, but they will come up and touch you. And it can go on for different reasons. I mean, they've done it. I know some that have done it for the kids because it was a ritual, like a rite of passage. I know some that do it just because they think they're funny, and they all have a wicked sense of humor anyway. They used to do it to me all the time, and they'd like to touch my hair. So they'd come up behind and they'd pull my ponytail or not pull it, but stroke it, or if my hair was down, they'd pat my head like I was a dog. So I was curious if they, you'd been tossed or moved or whatever, if it was just a touching.
Yeah, it was just a little push, on his shoulders, yeah, wow. God, I mean, this is just, like I said, I've gone from thinking, oh, I've got Bigfoot activity to what do I have? It just has everything. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm getting the whole gamut of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You're a sweetheart.
Yeah, so yeah, it's been kind of crazy. So and I don't go outside at night much anymore. I'm just kind of scared too, and my space, your space. I appreciate their space. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, this sort of, I'm not saying this other stuff wasn't going on, but maybe you just didn't really notice it. But it kind of started out with you going, hey, there's like weird things happening in the barn and Bigfoot related type stuff. And we're like, huh? Right. Are they sneaking in? Are you giving them free lunches? Are they sneaking in and grabbing food from you?
Yeah. Well, I think I was just so amazed. We didn't start really doing any EVP stuff in the barns until, I'd heard my name called a couple times in the house. And what really kind of got me going, oh, this is kind of not good, was I fell, right before you fall asleep. One night, I swear to God, there was a woman and two guys and they were talking so fast. And I thought, oh, I'm going to have to remember what they're saying, but I didn't, because I was kind of drifting off. And then anyways, a few nights later, laying in bed, I got my cheek blown on. That just kind of woke me up. And I thought, well, my dogs are kind of still sleeping. Everything must be fine. So I just went back to sleep. Well, the one that really got me is when they blew directly in my ear, just and I thought, whoa, my dogs were still sleeping. So I thought everything must be okay. So that's when I went to my friends and I thought, well, we should go do an EVP in the barn. Oh, yeah. And we got all sorts of stuff, And I thought, well, this is interesting. So maybe that, I became more aware of what was going on around here. And they were just trying to do that to get my attention. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, it's been interesting, really interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah, but you get great.
What was that?
I said you get great pictures.
Oh, thank you. Well, a lot of those are coming off of Frank's. It's just one of the cheapest cameras he got for the barn, and it takes great photos. Yeah. And I've got cameras in my main barn, but I haven't put them on the alleyway. I use them for foaling. I've been too scared to see what I might get. So, yep. Just from everything that's happened, I'm like, yeah, I just feel like, all three of the barns, we've gotten something in them, so or by them. Yeah.
Well, I'm not surprised because the Bigfoots absolutely love horses, as we know.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the breeding thing that's part of it. And then once you get one thing that's paranormal, it's like a magnet for the rest of it. And then you add things that are on your property, like the vortexes and the energy holes. And you've got, you know, they can bring, I mean, not that there aren't anchored portals, but they can bring portals with them. I mean, we've had all the way in Russia and in the States where they literally, I've seen it in Pennsylvania, where they literally, the ground just opens. And all of a sudden there's this portal. You know, they just completely open it up, jump down in it, and then they close. We had one, I was driving down the road by my house, and we have these rock walls where they had made the road through. And I was going through there one night, and I watched a black Bigfoot come down the one side of the hill, cross the road in front of my car, and this hole opened up in the rock wall. He went in, and then it closed, and I'm sitting there like, excuse me?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, it's amazing. And you just have got it all going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, we seem to. Oh gosh, I know. Every moment.
Have.
Yep. So, yeah.
Speaking of all of it going on, now, Robin, you probably haven't seen the latest video from Paranormal Central down there where Researcher X is at. But she got a nifty video of some UFOs here. When did you take that?
Not last night, but the night before.
She sent me that picture. Is that the one? Yeah, she sent it, and she said,
Where did it go?
you know, I think it was, please tell me that that's not what I think it is.
I know.
Yeah, UFO girl.
Yeah, I'm like, can this be a Chinese lantern? Yep.
Chinese lantern. And I'm like,
yeah.
No UFO.
Right.
It really was.
Mm-hmm. It was just like I was just sitting on my back porch and there was a storm coming in. So I was just kind of sitting out there watching and I saw a light. And I thought, well, this is weird. Planes don't come. I mean, the flight path isn't this direction. And it was pretty low coming up. And I thought, what the heck? I said, well, I guess that's not a plane. It's got to be a helicopter because it obviously had a little bit of size to it. And I didn't hear the tunk, 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 you know, of the helicopter. And I thought, well, what is that? It's so quiet. And it kind of came and then it disappeared. It just absolutely vanished.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow. And I mean,
I have the picture right here in front of me, and I'm just kind of looking at it. If I remember correctly, I was really impressed. The shape of it was almost like a diamond shape.
Yeah. When I zoomed in on it, that's what I got too.
Clarify before I said anything, but yeah, I remember thinking how cool that was. We had one time. This was a couple of years ago. And one of the Foots had told me to go outside and look at the star that wasn't a star. And I'm like, okay. And he said, you know, bring your camera. And I thought, okay, this is serious. You know, they don't want the cameras out. So I got out there and he said, you know, make your camera work on it. You'll see. So I put the video on it and to look up in the sky, it just looked like a white light. Mm-hmm. I put the video camera on it and that thing was just bouncing all over the place. And so I videotaped it, and then he told me to look at what was next to it. And I said, I don't see anything next to it. He said, look at it through your box. So I put the camera up and looked at it through the camera lens, and you could see a star-shaped one, and it had multicolored lights on it. But when I wasn't looking through the camera lens, I couldn't see it at all.
Oh, wow. Isn't that something? Gosh.
Yeah, you got to send me that video.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah. Amazing.
Really bizarre. Very interesting. But that was a great picture, and you sent it to me, and I'm like, there's no way that's not a UFO. There's just no way.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, it was anything but.
And one of my friends said, oh, it just went behind the cloud. And I said, no, it didn't. It went behind the guideline of the pool screen and completely disappeared. I mean, I was like, where did it go? Could not find it again. It was just gone.
She was going to be a Chinese lantern.
Well, I was hopeful because one night we actually did see those. And I'm like, Frank, our neighbor let a series of them off. And I'm like, what is that? I'm like, is that a lantern? Because we could actually see the flame go out in those. And I'm like, maybe it's just a lone lantern, but it was too big. Yeah, I was hopeful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did like a capture on it on the video. And then when I blew it up, it was definitely diamond shaped.
It was just the craziest thing. It was just so bright. It was just, just so bright. So, so now we've got those, I'm like I said, what's next? Nothing would surprise me at this point. I watch these TV shows and I'm like, hold my beer. I mean, seriously. I'm just like, wow.
Welcome to my world, sweetheart. You're going to get better all the time.
I know. So I'm like, oh my god.
Great conversations, don't we?
Welcome to the club of no return.
Yeah, thanks, you guys.
When you get bored, you get really bored.
I'll get bored.
Yeah, because like when it gets really low, it's like it makes you more nervous because it's like, oh my god, what's wrong? What's going to happen now?
Right.
It's like when it's complete chaos, at least then you know what to expect.
Right. Yep. But I'm lucky because I keep so busy that I come in at night exhausted and I don't have time to keep thinking about this stuff and dwelling on it. So that's a good thing. So, yeah. Oh my gosh. But I never in a million years would have thought anything like this was possible or could happen to me. It's been pretty wild. So
you're a good person.
Oh gosh, I don't know. There's something going on because I think that stuff's always been kind of attracted to me. I remember even being back at my other ranch and stuff would happen up there, but not to this level.
Yeah.
Nothing like this. So, yeah.
Researcher X doesn't scare easy. I know that for a fact because she was up here camping with me in a haunted ghost town full of Bigfoot for 4 days in 2015. Just me and her camping up there. And the last night we were there, we had one shake my tent and then run past her SUV and slap the side of it and try and scare her and wiggle butt Mabel the dog. And she didn't even get that scared. I went and sat in the truck.
I was scared.
Yeah, you weren't that scared because I sat in the truck and we listened to an episode of Sasquatch Chronicles. So you weren't that scared.
What do we do now that we're huddled in the car? I wasn't going outside after that. Heck no. No.
Well, I did. I went back to my tent and went to sleep.
We did pack it up the next day because I was like, I'm done. I'm going back. Yeah.
Back to my own craziness. Someone else's.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm all like, let's stay another night. They just showed up and shook my tent, so they're around here. We should stay another night. She's like, no, let's go.
Yeah, let's see what else happens.
Yeah, I tapped out. Yep. So, yeah. Yep. That was pretty cool.
When people come to my house and like all this chaos is going on and they're like freaking out. And I'm like, yeah, this is really cool. I'm going to go to bed. I'm tired. They're like, how can you go to sleep? This is going on. No, it's perfectly fine. My son-in-law the other night, he was outside with the night vision goggles. And he's like, Mom, get out here. I said, okay. So I go out there and there's an ET right across in the driveway behind a bush. And it kept poking its little head up and it would look around and then it'd go back down behind the bush. And we watched it and it did this, I don't know how many times. So I said, okay, well, I'm going in the house. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. I start walking towards the house and he's got the night vision goggles and he's got them up in the air and he's looking, he's like, Mom, there are ships all over above the house.
Oh, wow.
But I'm like, that's okay. I'm going to bed. And he's like, what do you mean you're going to bed? There's ships all over the place. I'm like, yeah, it's okay.
Wow.
They're either come in or they're not. And one of the two things is going to happen.
Yeah. Well, and I was one of those, when I first started, learning about all this, people would tell me that they cloak. You'd have the people that be like, oh, they cloak. And then you'd have the others, oh, no, they're flesh and blood. There's no way that these things cloak. I think these things definitely cloak. My renter, he said, well, actually, beat down his house, go bump, 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 from the sides to the front to the side, he'll be looking, he'll hear the noise and nothing is there.
I've had one come out of the woods and get 10 feet from me and be, in complete flesh and blood mode and cloak.
Wow.
So I've watched them cloak so many times, it's not even funny. I had one jump out from the side of the road, land in the middle of the road. I was chasing a deer, and it landed in front of my car. So I stopped the car, turned around, looked at me, and it was in full flesh and blood mode at that point. And then jump up in the air while it was still in its flesh and blood, and then halfway through the air cloak, and then land in the bushes,
Wow.
But and when I lived in Michigan, I did it in the fall and it did it in the wintertime. I'd be walking and they'd be walking and shadowing me, and I would literally watch footprints being made in the leaves, wet grass, or snow, and nothing's there. And it's like
several other researchers have reported that to me.
Yeah.
Guys who were up at one of the guys was up at Port Lock, Alaska, Port Chatham, had something come running through a thicket, tear across the little clearing he was standing in, touched him and counted coup, and then tore through the thicket behind him, mangling everything. And it was cloaked the whole time it was going on. And I've had other people observe their tracks appearing in a field while they're sitting there during the day. These footprints are appearing as something invisible is walking through there. And, from my own personal observation, getting back to Coloma, where as I was up there last summer with Robin, you and me's mutual friend, Sunny, who was down here visiting us. And after she visited you, she came over here and visited me, and we went up and took an afternoon hike around Coloma, and she got that weird picture. Well, she got two pictures on her cell phone that were like scrambled and weird looking. And the second one, there's like something right next to her, and it looks like it's reaching out to touch her, and you can see the light bending around this thing. And if you look carefully off in the background on the left-hand side of it, there's a Sasquatch's head peeking around from a tree, looking at her. So I'm like, I cannot guarantee that whatever was cloaking standing right next to her is a Sasquatch, but there is a Sasquatch right behind it in the woods, peeking around a tree, looking at her.
Well, both Pat and I have asked them, how do you cloak? And every time, every individual we've asked, and every time we've asked, they say they bend light.
Yeah, they won't be more specific than that, but they have.
Wow.
And it's very disconcerting. Like, there are so many times Pat and I look out in our front yard, and we've had other people that have visited our home do the same thing. You look out in the front yard and you see either a leg going across the yard, or you see an arm going across the yard, or a back, or just something where they've uncloaked for a brief moment and recloaked. And so you literally see a body part going across my front yard. It's very disconcerting. I have to be honest. But I had a big male come in when I was in Michigan, and I had an area that I had put food out for him. And he wasn't one of the regular clan, but he was hungry. And he was massive, and he had the big coney head on him, and he came in and got food. And I was standing on the porch when he came in. And where I put food out was literally 25, 30 feet from my porch. So, I mean, it wasn't like it was far away. And he didn't realize I was there. And as he was getting food out of the bucket, he turned and saw me and instantly cloaked. But when he cloaked, they must have some reign of control on their body when they cloak, because he cloaked everything but the top of the conial head. And he took off and ran into it looked like a yarmulke going through our woods. It's like, look at this little yarmulke floating. And I'm like,
oh my gosh.
Okay, I get it. But, either completely cover up, dude, or uncover. Just pick one.
Right,
it kind of
right.
reminds me of the name that they've got for him up in north central Canada and up toward Alaska. They call him the Gilyuk, which translates as the big man with the little hat.
Yeah.
But we get that all the time. We'll see like an arm, and it's like they're running through, but they have to have some kind of control over what they cloak and what they don't, really. And it's like when people are taken, when they are grabbed, or if a child is taken, all they have to do is put a hand on them, and they can cloak whatever they're touching. It doesn't matter what it is. And so, that does come into play. Not that they do that a lot, but I'm just saying that when that happens. But the same thing, I have put things out before and been right near there and seen, whether it be food or an object or whatever, and turn around and it's completely gone. And it's like just there 30 seconds ago. But when they go to grab it, they can cloak whatever they're touching.
Wow.
Wow. They've done that multiple times. They did in the backyard. I've got a bunch of dogs, and I have this one big great white Pyrenees, and they absolutely adore her. They've loved her since she was a puppy. Mm-hmm. And they're forever putting stuff in the backyard for her to play with. I mean, random shoes show up in my backyard, blankets, whatever. And I'm like, where does this come from? And so every day when I put them out, I do this walk around my backyard to make sure that there's nothing out in the yard that A, they can get hurt on, or B, that I can expect that they put in there. I want to know what's there starting out the day. Mm-hmm. And nothing's out there. And it's like an hour later, and I was in the kitchen. I never saw anything come up into the yard. And all of a sudden I look out there and she's carrying around a 2x4 in her mouth. And I'm like, what in a 2x4? I mean, really? And I go out there and here's this worn out 2x4 in the backyard. And of course, Pyrenees are big. She's got it in her mouth. She's dragging it around the backyard. I'm like, how about that? I mean, it just shows up in my backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that commonly happens. 2x4s just fall out of the woods all the time.
You know what? I wish ones would. I have so many uses for them right now.
Well, with the price of wood, especially. Yeah. Let it rain, right?
If we're putting wood floors in, I wonder if they could grab a couple boxes of those bloody things.
Right, right. Yeah.
Give them some hints. We could use a giant pile of these 2x4s.
Exactly. Right. I mean, they pitched and helped move like 30-foot pine trees and moved them out, so that was always nice. I could use the wood, though.
Well, it will be really interesting to see kind of what happens the next few days because we've had to do a lot of tree work around here, just prepping for hurricane season. Yeah. And we took out a few trees that just were close to the house or were half rotted that were, a danger or a risk of falling. Yeah. So,
anxious to see if here.
Pardon?
I'll be anxious to see if those trees get moved. They moved ours. We had Hurricane Florence coming in, and we had just been in the house, not even really, but a few months. We didn't have all of our things were still in Michigan. We didn't have any tools or anything there. And we had this 30-foot pine tree, and when we moved in, it was tipped at an angle. Like it was already, starting to go at an angle. Mm-hmm. And I told Pat, I said, if this hurricane hits, that thing's coming down on our garage, which also has a bonus room above it. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, we don't have any time to get anybody out here to pull it down. We have no tools to do it ourselves, and you would have to have heavy equipment because of the height. It wouldn't be something you could just go and knock down because the projection of impact was the garage. And so we were in the garage trying to get some things organized, and my mini pigs have a big kennel in there and their litter box and toys and everything. And I was getting them all situated for the storm, and we heard this whooshing sound, and this huge wind came in the garage window. And Pat's like, what was that? And I thought, my God, the hurricane's here already, and it's not supposed to hit till tonight. Went in the backyard, and I didn't see anything in the sky, sunny, and I'm like, what in the world? So I went back out there and went, oh my gosh, the tree's gone. That huge tree is gone. And I had went outside beforehand, and I said, jokingly, I said, hey guys, I could really use the assist about now. Because if it comes down on the house, it's coming down on the bonus room. We already know that you guys go in there and play with the toys that are up there for the grandkids. So it would be really good if it didn't take out the house. So that was all I said. And not only was this down, it had been lifted up, and the base of it where it broke off from the trunk and the roots had been pulled back 10 feet. So that it missed the house. And then on top of that, the top of it, Igor took pictures of this. The top of it, if it would have hit the property, it would have snapped it up. This was snapped down so that when it did come down, there's no way it was hitting the house. But where it came off the trunk and the root was pulled 10 foot back behind. And there's no way to do that on its own. Just no way.
Right. Right. Oh, wow. Wow.
Needless to say, they got treats that
night. Yep. Oh, no kidding. Yeah, well, it'll be interesting because we took out probably about 10 more trees. See if that upsets anybody. Hopefully it doesn't.
Have you seen any sign of them building any structures in the wood line around the property, or have they moved back with that?
No, I have not. And we've had some Bigfooters out 2 weekends now, and they haven't really gotten a lot of stuff. They've actually gotten a little bit more paranormal stuff, and the paranormal group that came out, thought they had gotten more Bigfoot stuff. I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell y'all. So, but both
They got scared and left.
nobody's really got scared and left yet. Well, the one gal got really tired. It was like she was still tired into that following week. She had come in and she said she felt something, and she stayed at the hotel room. They were probably here until about 2 a.m, and she didn't come back that next night until about maybe 6 o'clock. And she was really tired and drained, and said it took stuff out of her. But nobody's really been that scared where they've taken off and left. We did have both groups that went out into the woods. We've got a kennel behind us that breeds German Shepherds, and those dogs will bark and bark and bark. And both groups swore that they heard something bigger bark or huff back at these dogs, and then it was complete silence. Yep. So that was something that did happen to both groups. So, yeah.
Have you taken any more walks around the scary woods?
No, I haven't. No. Why do I have to go into the woods? They come to me. I just have to walk into the scary barn. Yeah. So, yep. No more walks into the scary woods. No, but the paranormal group did make a cast of a footprint. So there you go. Pardon?
I said, that's great.
Yeah, yep. Not what they were really looking for with all their equipment, but just.
I was just wondering if you had Bigfoot guys down there, if you sent them up and check out the scary woods. Because as I recall, there's like a power line or something going through there too, so that'd be a good spot to check. Yeah, they didn't go too far back. They said, oh, it really opens up. And I said, well, you guys were just on the first part. You can actually go across the power line, and there's a whole 100 acres across the power line that you guys could have walked through. Yeah. But they didn't get that far back. They said it was pretty thick. No kidding. Well, that's where they hang out, right, Robin?
Yep.
Right, and then it opened up. They said there's a lot of game trails and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They're doing their own.
They're only here for 2 nights,
Yeah. Well, they got to hunt over there now that they haven't got any free access to easy, yummy horse feed anymore.
I know, right? So, yep.
You need to put them to work with all these trees and bushes, because I tell you what, they're good at it. I don't know who is playing. Normally it's Zerky that plays in the bushes at my house. We've got pine trees and all these scrub bushes and things that are quite large, and they gut them out every year, and they make like a tunnel through there. And this year they haven't gutted them out quite yet. But I was looking the other day, and I thought, why does it look like my bush is coming out into the middle, towards the middle of the yard? I went over there, and there's branches, fresh broken and still attached, hanging there, that are probably about as big around as a glass is. And so they're decent around. And they're not in a place where the wind can hit them because they're broke inside. And I've got all these huge branches now laying out going towards the middle of the yard. So now I've got to go out there. I don't even know if I can get them out because they're broken down, but they're still attached. It was all live wood. But yeah, they've been remodeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of our nicknames for them. We like to call them Forest Construction, Inc.
Yeah. Since they were going to.
Yep. But no, just, and another thing that happened, orbs. I haven't really seen any orbs except in the photos that we've gotten in the barn. But like I said, I'm not out at night to really see them. Well, the guy that worked here, he was out walking. He has been walking every day since like August at 5 a.m. He walks for an hour, 5 to 6. And he saw 2 bright lights up in one of the big trees. And he's looking, going, what on earth? He thought it was headlights. He goes, well, it can't be headlights because they're pointing down. He's like, what on earth? And so then he was looking for a helicopter, thinking someone was spotlighting. Well, these 2 lights came out of the tree, swirled around his legs, and took off.
Oh.
Yeah, he was a little freaked out. Maybe
oh, that's orbs.
Yep. So that happened, but it only happened one time, and he's walked every morning, and yeah, so now he kind of pays more attention when he's out there walking. So yeah, but I thought, well, that's interesting. They definitely wanted to come down and check him out. So And I know that, people say that there's a correlation between orbs and Bigfoot, the lights,
It is
everything.
paranormal stuff. They show up.
Yeah.
I mean, they're their own little energy base.
Mm-hmm.
I have people that I know real well that have actually seen the orbs floating around their property, and they've had little beings inside of them.
Oh, wow.
I've had 3 other people that I've worked with that have had that.
Like, do they just see the faces? Because I know in the barn we've got
They
the same
bodies. They look like little Bigfoots, but they were that big.
Oh, wow. We
the
see
orb.
definite faces in them, and we have seen the same couple of faces in several of them, different nights, different months, different times. So we're
Yeah.
getting kind of the same faces in some of these orbs,
Yeah.
time and time again. So I thought that was really interesting. So we're like, oh, look, he's back,
I wasn't
So-
sure if he saw an orb or what he saw last night. He leaves for work at like 3 a.m. So when of course, we're in the back of the woods. I mean, you have to go through like 2 miles of 2-track to even get out of the woods. And right across from us is this huge 200-acre pine tree farm. But then they also have a field that's right next to it, like right in front of my next door neighbors. And he went by there and he said he thought at first it was eye shine. He said, but it was just one big light. He says, you won't believe what I saw. He said it had one big light. I said, if you tell me there's a cyclops over there, so Hannah, it's the only thing that hasn't showed up yet. I don't want to know. He said, no, he said it looked like eye shine, but there was only one. So he said, I don't know if it was just turning, so I only could see the one eye, that was shining or what, but he said it was huge.
Oh, wow.
So probably
Wow.
an orb over there.
I hope there wasn't a giant cyclops with one glowing eye.
I know.
Yep. Well, I've got an eye shine, like I said, I don't go out very much at night anymore. I've got an eye shine one time red with the golf cart light actually hit it in the wood line there. And then the gal that used to live here, she worked at the vet clinic, got home at about 2:30 in the morning. She was on call 1:30 or 2:30 and opens the truck door and she got kind of growled at. And so she got a flashlight. She didn't have her spotlight out of the back of her truck and was aiming it. And it was back behind her little dog kennels. And about 7-8 foot up, she got red eye shine. And it scared her. I mean, she's a little Florida gal. I mean, been there, done that. I mean, grew up down in Okeechobee. I mean, little roughneck. And she went running to her house. She's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, before she'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go hunt some coyotes," and she'd go, stay out all night, sleep under an oak tree. Now she stopped doing that. So, yeah. Oh man.
I wonder what made her stop doing that.
Yeah, right. Well, when she lived in that house, they got the windows beat on, the house beat on. And the family that lives in that house now, they've had a little bit of that. The front door gets knocked on, and then they'll be sleeping, and they'll hear something that sounds like it fell, like in the kitchen or the living room, and broke. And they'll wake up and go out there, and there's nothing. So, yeah, and then Frank, the guy, my other renter, he'll wake up and the cabinet doors will be open, the closet doors will be open, the utility door will be open, the bedroom doors will be open. And he's like, what the heck? Yeah. Yeah, I mean.
My pantry door. And I have a big pantry and the door on it, I shut it tight every night so the cat can't get in it. And we've come home and had the contents out of there and on the floor.
Oh, wow.
And the door open. And then like gallon jugs of vinegar or cooking oil or whatever have been stepped on and the whole thing smushed.
Oh, God.
And it's all over the floor. Generally, once I get mad, then it stops for a while before it starts back up. But when Pat was doing the floors and stuff, he had this saw, and it was a heavy saw. I mean, it was not, something that the cat was going to be able to tip over. And he had it on this little table. And had sat there for like 2 days, and because he had more work to do, but he had to work. So he's like, leave it out. I will get it as soon as I finish this. I'm like, okay. And we were in bed one night and my son-in-law calls me from his bedroom and he's like, did you hear that big thud? Well, I do. I hear the stuff all the time. I just ignore it and go back to bed. But he wasn't used to it. He's more used to it now, but he wasn't when he first got there. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I just heard this big thud. And I'm like, okay. So I go out there. The pantry door is open, and I know it was shut when I went to bed because it's one of the last things I check. And I'm like, I don't know what it is. I'm looking around. That saw was not only on the ground, it was moved away from the table. So whoever picked it up dropped it.
Yeah. Recently I had to get a new cell phone. I had this is my new one. I had it on the ledge on the barn, wooden ledge like this. And I was talking to Moses and I heard it drop. And I thought, what the heck? And he goes, I think he said, what the bleep. I probably can't cuss on your show, but he used a bad word. But anyways, I was like, oh my gosh, it was in the middle of the alley, not just dropped.
Yeah.
And Moses said, it flew off the ledge into the middle of the alley. I picked my cell phone up and it is turning on and off. And I can't get it to stay on. Right up here in the corner where it shows your signal, how many bars you have, it was just like just blinking and doing all sorts of weird stuff. So of course I needed my cell phone. So I went to the Verizon store, and the guy's like, what on earth happened to your phone? We've never seen this before. And I'm like, it just fell. And he's like, nothing broke. And because my screen never cracked, nothing like that. It just, the electrical panel in it was fried or something, and they wanted me to back it up. We couldn't even get it to stay up long enough to back everything up that wasn't on the iCloud. It was, I mean, that's how bad it was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, crazy. And that just happened maybe 3 weeks ago. So
I mean, they literally, there's nobody better at messing with electronics than a Bigfoot. Seriously.
Amen.
Like the spirits and stuff, they can get in it and make noises, and the ETs can get on there. I was having a 3-way phone conversation with 2 very good friends of mine, and we do work together with the Bigfoots and the paranormal stuff, and we were talking about things like that, and we literally heard a reptilian on the phone, like hissing and making noises and trying to talk. And so they can get on there and do those things, but there's nobody that can mess around with technology like a Bigfoot. I mean, I've seen them remove videos. I had a girl the other day that recorded something that I said without my consent, which did not make my world and brought out very bad things in me. But then she called because she wanted me to repeat what I had said for her. And I said, what are you talking about? And she said, well, I recorded you. And I said, without my consent. And she said, but now it's gone. And I said, yeah, because they took it off because it wasn't yours to have.
wow.
You know, and we had another situation years ago where a gentleman had gotten video of Bigfoots, and what he wanted to do with it would have been very detrimental to their life. And it was like, we got to get this off of here. And so I immediately went to the Bigfoots and said, get it off of there. So they messed with it. And every time he would go to play this video, and he'd say, okay, we're coming up to the river, and we're coming up to where the Bigfoots were in the creek. And I knew he already had the footage. That I knew. And every time we get to a Bigfoot, a kitten would show up. And he had hundreds of people waiting to watch this footage. And instead of a Bigfoot, every time it was a Bigfoot, it was a kitten.
Oh, wow. That's pretty
And
awesome.
I was like, this is why I love you guys.
Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
my gosh. That's cool.
They can edit. Bama BF was talking about that, and I don't know if it got on the air or not, but she had one where she had actually found a nice track line, and she asked them, hey, could you guys leave some tracks at some point? Oh, they left a beautiful track line for her. But she didn't ask them that she could film it. But she went ahead and filmed it and everything, and when she got home, that whole file was just like... Yep. And I've had the same thing happen to me, where I've gotten in areas where there was a ridiculous amount of tracks, and you start filming it, and then you get out again, and you look at the file, and it's like, okay, why is there no sound in its orange and staticky picture? And there's nothing on there. It's just orange with static.
Wow.
A really good friend of mine, we were in Pennsylvania doing some work, and we had been very fortunate enough to have contact with the Fays. And we actually got one on camera by accident. We weren't actually trying to get the footage. It was a matter of a random picture that was taken, and there it was. And we got back to the hotel, and we were just thrilled, beyond thrilled that we had gotten this. And so she sent it to my phone, and every time it got on my phone, they swiped it. And so she sent it again, went to check her phone, and they swiped it off of her phone, and I had it on mine. So we kept playing multiple, sending the phone picture back and forth, trying to hang on to the bloody thing, and they just kept swiping it.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you know, if it's not, you're not supposed to have it, they're not going to let you keep it.
Wow. Oh, wow.
I have a cloaked female that's actually carrying a baby in front of her. And she's walking through the woods, and you can see the outline of her. You can see the baby. You can see her face, but the rest of her, it's all see-through and transparent. And I thought, how cool that it was an accident again that I even got the picture. I was taking other photos, and she showed up in it. And I was like, how cool, because I actually have one in the middle of cloaking. Like, there's no way you can doubt what she is or the baby, but you can see through her. So I thought, how fortunate am I that I got this? 2 years later, almost to the day, I'm in the Dollar Tree store, and one of the Foots that I am very close with gets hold of me, and he's like, they all call me Mom because they hear the kids call me Mom. It's either my tribal name or they call me Mom. Mom, 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 it's an emergency, and it's an emergency. And I'm like, what is the matter? We have to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, let me get out of the store. So I go out of the store, and I'm like, what is going on? The picture, you have the picture of her cloaking. I'm like, are you kidding me? I've had it for 2 years. I mean, they don't have a concept of time. I said, I've had this picture for 2 years. And I said, what is it? I'm not supposed to have it. Well, they didn't realize you had it. I said, I've had it for 2 years. I've never done anything to harm you guys with it yet. And then they told me I could keep it. But I mean, for that brief moment in time, like mass chaos had broken out with the clan, you know?
Right.
I kept waiting for them to steal it, and they haven't. They never did. But they were like in mad panic that they figured out I had it.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So are you allowed to show it on the show? Since you mentioned it, you kind of have to show it now.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you. You can put it on the show. It's okay. I've showed it other places, and I've told them, I said, you know, nobody knows where it's at, you know, where you're located. You're fine. And so it's not a problem. I'll send it to you. You can put it up.
Did you see that one sequence of pictures they took over in Siberia? And I know Igor looked into it, but he wasn't, I don't think, involved in taking them. But there's a big old furry walking down a snowy hillside past a couple of snow-covered pine trees and then beyond where they can see them. And they got 5, 6, 7 pictures of them. And a couple of them you can clearly see, like, parts of the middle of him ain't there. You can see through him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's been pictures of them, right, where they've gone flesh and blood into cloaking. You know, and the thing is most of my pictures that I have, not most, I want to say about half of them, if you just go outside and take random pictures and they're cloaked, they show up in your pictures and they don't look cloaked.
Oh,
like
wow.
the one that I have was in the middle of her transitioning. That's why I was able to get it. And I just happened to, I was taking pictures and I didn't realize she was standing there when I took it.
Wow.
But if they're cloaked and you're out there taking random pictures, it will show them fully, like they're in physical form.
Wow.
That again makes me wonder what Sonny managed to capture with that cell phone picture, because whatever it is, you can see the light bending around it.
Well, yeah, but it could have been transitioning too, or it could have been walking in a portal. I'd have to look at it. But I remember you telling me about it. It was a good picture.
Did you got the picture of, like, from the barn on the outside of, like, the mist that looked like it was coming from the left down to the right, and then it looked like something was walking out of it, and then there was an orb. That was the craziest thing.
Yeah,
I'm like, what the heck, right? Yeah. Yeah. So do these things turn into orbs?
Do you know, I'm not going to say they can't turn into orbs, because I've seen some really strong evidence showing them go up into an orb. I mean, seriously. And they were from very credible people. And I have seen them out in my backyard, and then all of a sudden they're gone and there's an orb there.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say they can't go in an orb, but the orbs are generally their own entity. They're energy based. So they are their own entity. But that, like I said, I also have very good people that I know and trust explicitly that have physically seen these things with little creatures inside of them. And I, like you said, you've seen them with the faces in them. I've seen them with faces in them. I have a picture from across my driveway of a big portal it's been there since we moved in, and a head, and it looks, sometimes I say it looks like a Bigfoot, and most of the time it looks like a dogman, but anyway, the gigantic head floating out of it. And Duke's seen that one. I've sent that to him before. He's had it on the show. But I mean, I don't think that we can rule out that they can't turn into that. I don't know if they're turning into it, if they're going into it. I mean, I would be more inclined to believe they're going into it.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the
other sources seem to think that they sometimes what they're doing when they're in an orb is it's actually their astral form and they're reconning you. Like they don't want to get that close physically, but astral check them out that way.
Well,
Yeah,
my first experience with orbs was that, we were driving along in a little Kawasaki mule, two our side by side deal, and I saw two lights, and I'm looking at them going, well, those don't look like fireflies. They were kind of floating, going back and forth, and it was like they knew I saw it because they gravitated right towards us then and went underneath the mule, and my cell phone went dead. I had a video camera. It went dead. It just took all the energy out of my electronics. And I was like, whoa, that is crazy. I'm like, get me out of here. Tapping out. So, yeah.
Before we were one night, Lauren and I, and we went out in the woods, and we drove our truck out in the middle down this dirt path where we knew that they had frequently crossed over. And we were back there sitting, and we were just talking. I mean, we were just, goofing around and sitting in this truck to see if we got any activity out there. And we saw, and it was about the size of a car tire, light blue orb. And it was off in the distance. I mean, it was bebopping around, and we're like getting a kick out of watching it because it's like way over there, so it's not a big deal. And it went horizontally across until it was even with the pickup. Or not a pick. She doesn't have a pickup. It's like a truck type thing, though. It's an SUV. And it stopped like it was almost watching us. Mm-hmm. And then it came flying at the door that I was at. I mean, it was hauling through there. There was no way to have turned the truck on and gotten out of there. I mean, it came that fast. And it got all the way to the door, and I kept waiting for it to hit the door and enter into the cab. And as soon as it got to the door, it just vanished. I mean, just completely vanished. It was bizarre, but it was big. It was the size of a truck tire. And it was like a light blue. And I couldn't see anything in it. That we kept watching it to see if we could see any type of a being inside of it or anything. And it was just darting back and forth through the trees. And then it got level with that door. And man, it hauled butt all the way to the door, and then it was just gone.
Wow. That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, but we've seen different color orbs. The other night, my son-in-law and my daughter's best friend's boyfriend, they're visiting from out of town. They're visiting with us. And so the guys were outside, and they were having a good time because they had the IR glasses, and they're looking at the trees and everything. And there were orbs all over popping around through the bushes and the trees the other night.
Wow.
Robin, have you ever heard I think this was on Sasquatch Chronicles a long time ago. It's not strictly Sasquatch related, but there's a story about a law officer was on his way to answer a call. He was putting along pretty good, like 60 miles an hour or something. Mm-hmm. And what looked to him like an orb flew out in front of his vehicle, which he then promptly hit. And he got hurt really bad because whatever it was that he hit that looked like an orb mashed the front end of the vehicle like he had hit a phone pole, stopped dead in its tracks, and blew out the electronic system in the whole vehicle.
That doesn't really surprise me. And I'll tell you why. Number one, these things are definitely 100% energy based. Okay. So if you're hitting something with that amount of energy, it's going to blow out every electronic you have. Mm-hmm. But I also think that even if it doesn't look like a solid mass, it is a mass of energy. So I would definitely, I personally, this is my own opinion, I would think that, it could do that damage. And I think, too, if something was inside that orb when he hit it, what floats around in those are actually a solid mass. Those little beings that my friend saw, that was an actual being in there, which would make it a solid mass. So whatever is floating around in there, when you hit that energy ball, it would be with enough force that even the energy alone could damage the vehicle. So I would believe that to be very true.
Well, it makes sense to me if you're hitting a ball of energy, even if it was, St. Elmo's fire or something, you blow out the electrical system. But that does not stop, a ton or more of vehicle moving at 60 miles an hour instant.
But if something were riding around inside of it, that would be a physical being inside, encompassed in that energy ball, it would, depending on what it is. But also, think of it this way. Okay, like, I do energy work. So you move things with energy. So now if you're going to hit something that is an energy ball, depending on how much energy is in it, it would have the capacity to stop something or damage it. Because when I do the energy work, it moves things. It stops things. That's why I do energy bubbles around people, so that when things try to penetrate it, it can't do it.
If I recall correctly, according to the description, it matched the front end of the car as if he had hit like a light pole or something. And it is falling off the electronic.
I can see where that would happen. I really do. I think that would be very possible, in my opinion.
Wow.
Because energy is a force.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is. It may not be a solid mass, but it is a force. Mm-hmm. And people use energy to move things all the time. We get the storms, when Florence came in. Weird, crazy story. Nobody has to believe it, but it's the gospel truth. Myself and my friend in Texas that helps me with some things, we've got this hurricane coming in. And they had expected the projection of that was supposed to go all the way into mid-state of South Carolina. Okay. I don't go by the coast because I don't live by the coast because I don't want to deal with hurricanes all the time. Where I'm at, I should have been more than safe. But the trajectory of it was going to come right over the top of me. So we're trying to, get this storm a little bit weaker than what it was. So we're doing energy work on the storm. But when you go to move a storm, you have to remember it's got to go somewhere. So it increases the damage in the other places you put it. So we're trying to push it off the coast. And at one point we did get it down to a 2. And it went from a 4 or whatever. And then it just dropped like a rock down to a 2. Whether it was us, who knows? But anyway, I then went out and I did an energy bubble over my property and my next door neighbors because I just love her to pieces. So I energy bubbled it and I thought it's not going to hurt. I mean, worst it's going to do is I'm still going to get pummeled. It's not going to do any damage. So my friend in Texas calls me and she's always watching the weather radar, on the computer. And she says, "You are not going to believe this." She said, "It's not raining at your place, is it?" I said, "No, I don't have a drop." She said, "Robin, everywhere outside of where you put that bubble, it's pouring down rain." She said, "Look to your neighbors on the other side." And I thought, well, I never thought about that. I go out on my porch and I look to my right, which is not where I had bubbled. I had bubbled to my left and they're getting pummeled. I mean, literally leveled to the ground. I don't have a drop. It's sunshine over at my house. It's sunshine on the other side. And I'm like, this cannot be real. Because I honestly did not think it would work. I had no possibility to think it would work. And she's like, "I'm not kidding you. The entire state is like a solid mass of hurricane, except for one little tiny pocket. And it's directly at your house." We never got one drop. Not one drop. Roads were flooded all around me, everything. We never got one drop on my property or hers. And that's just with energy. Does that mean it works all the time? No, it doesn't. But I mean, in that particular case, it did. But the thing is, energy is a force in itself. And so do I think that it's possible? I think that probably something was inside that energy or bubble, that the guy hit. But even if it wasn't, you can use energy to move things. You can move physical things with it. So there's no reason to believe if you can use energy to move a physical thing, no matter what it is, that it could do damage and stop it. Absolutely. To me, it makes
interesting. Back up what you're saying about the storms. I've heard that from other sources before too. There's a pastor who was him and his congregation were watching a tornado come toward town, and they just stood right up and rebuked it and prayed against it, and the thing turned and went the other way.
We've done work on tornadoes that were headed right for my friend in Texas, and it's moved them. But again, when you do that, and I had to learn this the hard way, unfortunately, because I didn't realize it was the first time I'd ever tried to move a storm. I was actually getting on a plane, and we had this serious storm, and I like flying, but I don't do well with turbulence at all. And I just, figured out how to do all this energy stuff, and so I went to go move the storm, which was fine. What I didn't realize, because I was new at it, is when you move it, it still has to go somewhere. And it totally wreaked havoc for the people on the ground, because not only did they get the storm, they got dumped with absolutely everything. And I have felt guilty and been eternally sorry for that ever since. But now when I try to maneuver weather, which I really and truly don't do it very often, because it's not something that you're supposed to be moving to begin with. But the few times that I've done it, I make sure where I'm going to put it, so it's not where somebody else could get hurt.
Wow.
Got to be responsible. Well, ladies, we are well over the hour mark, and I think we've pretty much covered the excitement of the haunted ranch in Florida.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for coming back and sharing that with us. Really appreciate it. Researcher X,
I appreciate it.
It was fun, you guys. Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Conversations with you, because I enjoy talking to you.
I know. I enjoy talking to you too. You're gonna have to come visit.
Yeah, I definitely have a good time. Can you imagine if I come visit all the stuff we could figure out?
I know, right?
I keep encouraging her to do that, just so you know.
Yeah.
When she gets time, she's free, but it's not season and baby season and everything.
Right.
It's like a 6 to 8 hour drive, I think, when I looked it up on maps. Mm-hmm. So it's not that big of a deal.
No, that's not that bad.
Yep. Once you get done with foaling season, she can come down and visit you for a weekend or something.
Yeah.
Check out the whole property, figure out what all's going on there, who's being naughty, who needs to be spanked, what needs to be closed.
Who can be allowed to stay and who has to get out,
Right. Yep. No kidding. So, we'll visit. Yep. So this was fun. Yep.
Well,
it was nice visiting with you and seeing you. So, yeah.
To actually see you. Like, normally we talk on the phone or we're texting back and forth. I still want that little white pony, I'm just telling you.
Oh, sassy Barbie. Yeah.
Oh my, she is the most adorable thing I have ever seen. I melted when you sent me the video. Totally melted.
Yeah, she looks like My Little Pony, except like real life.
Oh, she is. She is so cute. We love her.
She moves her body around. She is full of herself.
She is.
She's got it going on.
Yep, she does. Yep, she sure does. So, oh boy.
Glam pony. All right, ladies. Well, thanks for coming on and letting everybody know about all this bizarre paranormal stuff going on down there in Florida, where nothing weird ever happens and everything's totally kosher and normal all the time.
Well, thank you.
Well, thanks so much.
Yeah.
All right. And to everybody else now, make sure that you always are kind to others. Safety first, last, and always. Pay it forward. Do not poke the dog man. Don't punt the puck, would ye? Do not flip off the mountain giant. And whatever you do, do not hug the Wookiee.